She's flying back, but she's been caught on the tarmac.
How much they are?
For half an hour. Okay, welcome everybody. Want to make sure that everyone has themselves all ready. Thank you, and we'll go away. Martin, would you like to lead us with a karakia?
Yura, o tia tariki, o ti kiki. Hai ti komako eko. Tai mai, ai aho, ia to te mea nui. E a te mea nui o te ao, o e ti iatu. He tangata, he tangata, he tangata, hei.
Thank you. Okay, and apologies. We only have one apology today, and that is for her worship, and she is currently flying back down this way, so she will join us as soon as she can. And as she said on the radio this morning, driving the posted speed limit. You'll be happy to hear that. Move that they accept it. Thank you, Stu. All those in favour? Against, carried. Okay, firstly this morning, would like to ask everyone to be upstanding for a moment's silence for the passing of Lenny Claridge. Yep. Martin, would you like to say some words?
I had the pleasure of being a colleague and a friend of Linley for over 30 years. Let's sum up what Linley was like. It's probably the best example is what happened a couple of weeks ago, 1 week after the election. And knowing that she was critically ill, I got a message. She texted me saying, "Congratulations on getting re-elected. Wishing you all the best for the next 3 years." And that sums Linley up to a T. She was often described as having a wonderful smile and a heart of gold. And she certainly had that. We had our moments. She was the resident spokesperson for Russell Ibbotson sitting around this table, and her and I had some scraps on that over the years. But she always came to this table with the community's interest at heart and individuals' issues at heart. And she did it with smile, and she did it with a lot of love. I used to pick her up on, she'd write her speeches prior to coming to the table, and I used to have to remind her that that's not how a debate goes. You're supposed to talk from your heart. But Linley contributed a hell of a lot to this community, and it was a hell of a shock to many when she passed. She has had a career dealing with bereavement for the last 10 years, and I know with my dealings with her in that role, she was fantastic. And our thoughts go to her family, to John and the boys, to her grandchildren, and she'll be missed.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking on the way in, the first time I met Linley, she was our accountant. Bill Cooney was our accountant. As long as I was old enough to go to the account with Mum and Dad, she would be bring the biscuits and the cup of tea and the coffee. And then I never really, ever saw her out on that until I came into council when she started, and she was on the council. But she remembered your name as you were a wee kid. She remembered the families. She always had that link to the families of everyone in the community, and she was well respected for that. And at council, we sat on this side of the table the whole time I've been here. And she didn't get angry very often, but when she felt about something at this table and she stomped her foot, you knew that she really, really meant it. So she was the grandmother figure of the the group and the whole time I've been here with the respect and by no means was she a pushover or the grandmother. She was equal to anyone at this table when she had issues that she felt with. So we sadly miss her. She was such a lovely person. So rest in peace, Lily.
Yeah, it just having Lily run the table, she was a fierce protector of everything people orientated. You know, her whole life, she was really, really passionate about what she did. Taima has already mentioned the Dark Sky in Naseby, which was her absolute pleasure place to go to. She cared deeply about her family, deeply about her community, and that was, you know, evident around this table and evident in the work that she has undertaken for the last several years. I agree with your sentiments, Stu. When she was very passionate about something, she'd certainly let you know. She is a colleague, a friend, and she will definitely be missed. Thank you. Okay. Right, moving to public forum. Matt, lovely to have you with us. Come and join us.
Got a copy of what I'm going to say if people want to have a hard copy.
Pass that round.
Okay.
Not because it's password.
So have people watched the full video?
Yep.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of point unless other people are interested in the short.
Would anyone like to see the abridged version video? I presume everyone has had the opportunity to have a look at the video.
That's cool. Thank you. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutua, tēnā koutou. A world of difference under threat. I'm speaking as a resident of 43 years with professional experience in Central Otago heritage in concert. I'm here out of serious concern about the future health and well-being of the difference. Our lives, food, health are directly related to the ecological health of our environment, which supports and impacts on our human health and therefore our well-being. It's powerfully evidenced in the CODC funded research by Angus and Associates, development of a district vision and wellbeing framework for Central Otago. I tried to raise awareness with CODC over the lock gate and damage to recorded archaeological features associated with the partially formed public road on two separate occasions, both to our Mayor and Chief Executive. Instead of answers to emailed concerns, I've been diverted down the logoma process and have since received no meaningful reply. I now find Peter Kelly has already signed away our public access rights to various legal roads with no public engagement or input. We are lacking community leadership and discussion on this inflection point in relation to the future of our world of difference values and our ecological life supporting systems. This is not just about one cast mind to follow. Oceana Gold has documented outstanding non-compliances recorded by OSC that are of such concern Ngāi Tahu is not supporting Oceana's proposed mine extension under the RMA. Oceana Gold are now withdrawing from the RMA process and are seeking an application under the Fast Track Act. Freedom of thought, conscience, belief, expression, including the right to adopt and hold opinions and express those opinions, is essential to a free society. Where is the transparency in what has been negotiated between our Chief Executive and Santana behind closed doors? This needs sunlight and hopefully not disinfectant. And I'd just like to leave you, I'm not going to read it, a poem from Gillian Sutherland, Hallowed Land with a North Guthrie.
Anyone have any questions on that?
I guess the only thing in Central Otago was founded on gold hundreds of years ago.
I
Look at-
get that, yeah.
And Naseby, a classic example in our community. Our communities came here for gold originally, and the Chinese may have come here first. And I guess the discussion is that if you look at the Falls Dam and the West Dewburn Dam and the coal pit and the Hoffman's irrigation, the gold gave us now an intergenerational assets and intergenerational families. And I hope that if these many proposed gold mines, and they're drilling around our way now, they're drilling Macrae's, is there a way that everyone can work together where communities can benefit? And obviously the technology of the world and minerals are now focused
Totally.
for everything. How is there a reflection point? Is there a point where mining, whether it be, we're mining technology now, and we're mining sun, and we're mining gold, and we're mining oil, where's that point? And I guess that
My answer to that is gold is not an essential mineral. And we have learnt an awful lot since those early days. We know a lot better. My concern is that gold, you can't eat it. And we're reaching planetary boundaries and planetary resource limits at a phenomenal rate. And I just see it as a very inappropriate and poor use of our quality water, our good soils. This is not an enduring project. Once the gold is dug, that's it. And I believe it has substantial risks to our enduring economies. What concerns me is the absolute lack of discussion over the consequences. I fully understand people are for gold mine, totally get that. But I just believe the level of debate is abysmal. Well, in fact, I believe it's absence. We are at a serious point, and wasting our precious fossil fuel, our hydro energy, and our quality water for something you can't eat is way more precious things we should be doing with those resources. But that's my concern, is just the lack of discussion over where this is. I believe this is a pivotal point. I fully understand the value of gold. I've got a gold ring on my finger. But I just think there's no such thing as growth. We're not going to grow our way out of this because there's planetary boundaries we're up against. Farmers fully understand stocking rates and carrying capacity, but why as a species do we not get that?
Any other questions for Matt? Thanks, Matt. That's much appreciated. And we have watched that video. So.
No, thank you very much.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, Jill. Welcome, Jill.
Hi, how's it going?
Very good.
So, just this morning, just would like to clarify a couple of things about the rebuild of the Roxburgh Town Hall. So, as some council staff will know, our little area has just sort of like exploded into a bit of anger and a lot of bad information. So, I'd just like some clarification that council is not going to spend a cent of money on looking at anything until there has been a full district survey, petition, whatever, on exactly what people in Roxburgh want. So most of the people, not all of them, but in Mansfield, most of the people in Roxburgh want their town hall built back on their section where it was, basically as it was, and are vehemently opposed to spending any money, looking at anything until a decision has been made. So can I get any clarification around that at all?
We have got that paper coming up later today in relation to the proposal being put forward.
So what's in that paper? Are you going to go ahead with looking at location before?
That's to be decided.
yes, to be decided.
Okay, so
There's three options.
Three
For
options.
it, vote against it, leave it on the table.
Oh, okay. So I've been asked to come here today just to put forward that, you know, because we do have the insurance money, but it's not going to go far into in today's world when it comes to building and all the rest of it. And I'm just asking council on behalf of the people that have spoken to me to put off any clear decision about spending anything until the town has made its decision. I think it's important that the town does make the decision and not the council as such, you know what I mean? So yeah, so that's it. That's why I'm here. Stu.
I guess we had a strategy meeting at a community board the other day, and things like community facilities and other things. To me, if there's an inkling that we may have to look at new facilities or other things, is it not our responsibility to make sure as a council we look with open eyes at every option?
Oh, yeah, yes.
And because to me, it's like, look at what we've done in Cromwell. We've got a fantastic facility where a lot of people in the community didn't want it. And now it's like 2 years down the road, it's fantastic. And if it came down to timing and $1 million and some of it was picked up by the district or it was picked up by mining royalties or it was picked up from somewhere else, you know, with such regulatory change happening now in this body, what really worries me and frightens me is we're not looking at every opportunity because the rules of which we may be playing in now, the sandpit we're playing in the Roxburgh Community Board or Minitota Community Board may not be there in the future. And I would hate to think that for the sake of a bit of time and opening their eyes and have a look at all the options, we don't do that. And
The community board, so we voted 3-1 that, you know, for that money, the 20,000 to 40,000, and there's a chance that will blow out because it always does. But where the confusion has come is that people in Roxburgh, and many of them, not all of them by any means, but many of them think that you're going to make a decision to spend that to spend that money and to start spending that money. And then after you've made that decision, there'll be the town hall meeting on the 11th.
yeah.
So I understand this is total rebuild and we voted to look at other options, but it has been bloody heated in town, I can tell you.
And that's a good thing, right? I mean, it
the
brings
other
out.
thing that we've got a little bit that makes it a little bit different from some of the other halls is, you know, we are the second oldest site in the world for a picture theatre. A lot of people really want to hang on to that. And one of the options that, you know, that is in the main street, a lot of people, you know, it brings its own problems with lots of parking and lots of parking and yeah. So, but I think that the town of Roxburgh definitely wants to have its say before council makes a decision. Yeah.
Further questions? I guess one question from me, Jill, just, and I'm certainly hearing everything that you're saying is, and I'd love to hear if you've got any great ideas as how, as if we're sitting around this table with, however the meeting goes, we inevitably going to be left with people that are happy and people that aren't. How do you see a way of, do you think at the meeting there's a way that we can actually get some agreement? Like obviously at that point,
At the town hall.
yeah. So how do we balance the
Do a show of
conflicting?
hands. I mean, you know, that's how democracy works, isn't it? It's the loudest voice, the squeakiest wheel. Rule. At that, I still think it would be really. What's voting? In part, I think at that town hall meeting, people need to be asked what they do. And the reality is, with our little valley, you can have a flyer in a letterbox, every letterbox in the valley in one day, and then people to give their reply.
If money wasn't an issue, would you have a different perspective? Or the community, I say, have a different perspective?
No, I don't think so. I think you've got a really strong core group of people in Roxburgh that want that historic site. You know, and I do realise that you need to have a bit of a look around when you're doing a total new rebuild. You know, that a totally new rebuild always affords a little bit of opportunity, but I think you'll find that most of Roxburgh will cling like a limpet to putting their town hall back to where it was.
The site or the time a bigger factor?
Well, time's one thing. I mean, it's going to take 3 years to build a hall, but the site, they want that historic site. And, I mean, Roxburgh's not going to explode in growth over the next 10 years, probably. So, you know, what we had was quite suitable. And if we build back similar, and, you know, with a few little tweaks and tweaks to the thing, you know, we could still have a really good town hall and theatre on the site where it was.
Do you think our forebears, when they built the original hall, which was Art Deco, an architectural style which was controversial at the time, I think there might have been a bit of a split in the town back in the 1920s when it was originally built, because you have
The hall was built in the 1800s.
Yeah,
The
but
original.
the original, yes, but when they refurbished it and did an Art Deco facade,
Yeah.
that was quite controversial at the time.
Yeah.
I put even money on it. That small village of Roxburgh was probably evenly divided about the merits of that design back then.
It could have been. I mean, I don't know. I'm old, but you know,
Not that
you're
old.
pushing it now.
And I've tried to do some research through paying off the parts to find out. And I'm
You know, no, but Tracy's right. No matter what you do, especially in a small town, no matter what you do, 50% will love it, 50% will hate it, and you know that's something we've got to seriously take on board. The push and the feedback that I've had has been overwhelmingly.
Has that feedback been coming from any particular sector? Like, I know the movie people are really keen to get back in there to maintain that.
The movie sector is certainly one part of it,
Yep.
but a lot of it is just local people that you meet in the supermarket and they have a chat and they go, what the hell's going on?
Because I've been following the email traffic, and 60-40 split between people adamant that it goes back to that site, and 40% saying it's worth investigating the possibility of a new site. So I don't think when you say it's overwhelming support, I think there are people in your community have picked up on what the thinking was behind looking at the potential of having an alternate venue and what that would mean.
Yes, but a lot of people also don't express their opinion on social media. You know, that's where your vocal ones are, is on your social media, but the quieter ones are just the people that you meet every day through.
I also think there's an element that people actually think that this is a decision being made to move it. It's not. There's misinformation that this is a decision that's in motion,
Yes.
and won't be stopped unless we get really loud about it. We're missing the point of this is to look at everything
Yes.
and then make the decision.
But you know, it'd be really good to be able to have some clarification to say to people, well, nothing's going to be spent, nothing's going to go ahead until the voice is heard.
Any questions for Jill? No, I think, thanks, Jill. That, as you know, that from the agenda that comes up around about 11:30, it could be sooner. I don't know if you'd like to stay around or not.
No, I'll put up so that people at home can watch it.
Okay.
Stream and stuff. So
Thanks, Jill, for coming.
yeah, miss that heat.
Yeah.
What was the colour of the ribbon they cut, Matt?
Okay. Thank you very much.
You get there, not listening.
And the
Concentrate.
okay, the confirmation of the minutes. And that was from the 24th of October. Sorry?
And the 29th.
Oh, and the 29th, that's right. I'm just going through here. And I have someone move that they are a true and correct record. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Charlie. You got in first. All those in favour? Against?
Got to be real.
Carried. Okay, and declarations of interest. Members are reminded that if there is anything in the agenda today that or a conflict for them, to please step aside. Now, the community board chair update. Mark wasn't able to make it today, so at some stage we will catch up with him again. We can move through, and that will take us through to the regulatory and QP, Quentin. Like to off, and this is 25.1.3. alcohol and environmental health reasons.
Thank you. I'll take the report as read. So this report is seeking approval to use alcohol and environmental health reserves to fund succession planning and a role in training through the end of this financial year. The current unaudited reserves at 1 July were 194,062, which are ample to cover that with this. I'll take any questions.
Move the report and the recommendations. I'll second it.
Yeah, it is obviously, this is heavily process driven and a really important. And we've had Wayne come and speak to us before around the council table and how busy their group is. So yeah, I think that's a really good move. So thank you, Condon. Thank you, Martin, who was the seconder. Stu, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay, and you're back up again for the next one, building consent management system.
Yes, and we'll take the report as read, and just want to make one correction with regards to recommendation B. It's for the implementation, not the implantation. So this report is around implementing objective goals into the building consent process. Essentially, our current system is an existing council system that we use that is quite administratively heavy and does need some workarounds to basically drive the process and does not give some clarity and information to users in terms of people submitting their building consent, as well as continuing at times with tracking that as well. So the key features of Objective Build will basically fully digitise the process, automated statutory time tracking, which helps us with our IANS audit process, real-time visibility of consent progress for customers and staff, and particularly that customers part is important. Mobile inspections at the field offices, and is a good enabler to that remote inspections piece as well. Built-in reporting dashboards, including detailed requests for information reporting, and seamless integration with Magic for the back end in terms of our files and other data platforms that we have. And that are also trialling and doing a pilot at the moment around resource consenting using Objective Build and linking to e-plans and different things like that. So the opportunity to implement further modules in the future is there as well. And so in regards to the cost, the main cost through this is the implementation cost, which we're looking to fund from the building reserves. The estimated inflation is at $200,000, but the unaudited surplus reserve balance at $2.3 million, noting some of about $1 million of that is being used this financial year for offsetting of rates in that space. However, there is still significant balance there to enable the implementation system, and council fees and charges would be adjusted to those consenting fees going forward. In terms of the administration side of things and the opening up of additional potential time, we are obviously, you'll have seen some of the struggle with the resource, and we do have it in meeting inspection timeframes and everything like this. This is another tool to enable us to be on track for meeting the 85% of inspections within 3 days, that new legislation that came out, and obviously the processing of our consents in terms of issuing building consents within 20 days, and will allow us to focus around some of the other areas where we have certain expectations around building warrant fitness, the compliance schedules for in the commercial space, and our swimming pool requirements for inspections of around fences. Well, so happy to take any questions. I believe we have Nathan online from Services team.
I have a question. Are there any other councils using this program?
Yeah, so there's 40 councils across New Zealand using it, and we are very fortunate. We've made an appointment for a new regulatory services manager who starts with us in the new year, who has been implemented this at their existing council where they're coming from. So they've gone through the implementation process of objective build, so it comes with that wealth of knowledge as well. But 40 councils, across New Zealand do it. Waitaki's just going through the change and implementing that now as well. As Clifton, there's another council near us that has gone through the process of implementing objective build.
At my previous council, we introduced objective build as well. Obviously, and it made a significant enhancement to our ability. It was a reasonably high growth council as well. Just to manage the process, better manage the process from end to end.
And you talked about the add-ons. Now, obviously from a technical point of view, that you're happy that the ability, when obviously we're about to go into quite a bit of change coming through from central government, that's going to be, that system is able to be sufficiently
This will
upgraded.
be advantageous to that, and having this implemented across if the resolution's agreed, having this implemented over the next 6 months will put us in a position to be able to tackle any of that as it comes on and is needed.
Build make any change to the number of staff that are required to run it at present?
No, it's we need so that this will be another report coming to the table either December or in the new year around to meet our legislative requirements based on change. We need an extra 4 building inspectors and 4 vehicles. This may lighten some of the administrative load on the team, but we still have a long way to go with getting the right amount of resource for our BCA function and our territorial authority function as a whole building consent team. Yes, but no.
So this is going to cut down time, for example, all these consents to be issued. So presumably there will be a cost saving there. Is there any way that you can put a sort of quantify that at all or not?
I would say not quantify. I would just say that it will allow us to meet our statutory timeframes more efficiently and effectively, and obviously get through more consents because we are struggling with the number of we are using NPL, National Processing Limited, at the moment to assist us with processing backlog as we get our inspections back on track. And I think this will go a long way to not having to use that much external resource. So in terms of quantifying it, there's potentially less going out to external party and keeping more in-house, but I don't have the numbers to.
Okay,
Does this put us into a system more like eDocs? So consented, do you take out that step of having to request plans from council through? I know you go through a manual process if you're looking at information for a section of building.
So, sorry, that's to.
So if you're looking for information on a builder section, you go QLDC, particularly use eDocs, so you can just access that automatically. Whereas here it's a manual transaction where you have to request files.
Talking about Brisbane, is Nathan online?
Yeah.
Can you answer that one, Nathan?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Very loud.
Yes. So we have plans to do a similar service to the eDocs solution that QLDC has got. That's outside the scope of this, but it just supports it and the flow of that and documents into the system that we'll be implementing in the coming years.
But the consents that would go in as part of this process, would they automatically be in a system that would then make them available? So from this point onwards, that would facilitate that. So we've only got the historical to look back on.
So the historical and the new will be available in the air version of the eDocs through and integrated and automated through the system.
That's good. That'll save time. That's a fairly
Yes.
laborious process. So
Yeah.
that's good. Yes. Thanks.
Any further questions? No, I think from a customer perspective, that would be being able to see that in real time and where things sit. That is a really big positive move. So, okay, so
Get rid of
the recommendation. The recommendations are that we receive the report and it accepts the level of significance and agrees to fund the implementation of the new consent management system from reserves. Thank you, Nathan. We'll move that. Thank you, Bob. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Look forward to seeing that next week, eh?
Okay, Stu, over to you.
21.5, proposed road stopping in uniform unnamed road through Parkburn. Gareth, welcome.
Morning.
Morning. So the purpose of the report is to get your approval of a road stopping at the Parkburn quarry. And just a bit of background on road stoppings for the new councillors is we often get about 8 to 10 during a year of road encroachments by landowners where they're actually encroaching on the legal roads, of which is mostly what we used to call paper roads. We now mean to use the terminology unformed, unnamed legal roads. But paper roads describes the situation quite well. It's a road on paper, but it's not a formed road. So what happens is people normally buy a property, they don't realise they're encroaching on what is a paper road or an unformed road, and once they sell or they want to develop their property, that's when they realise that. And so they have to apply to council for that road to be stopped and the land parcel created, registered, and then amalgamated with the title. And usually that process is 2 legal procedures which are set out in the report that you can follow. And it will always entails the applicant paying all the costs, as well as purchasing the land from council at a agreed fee, market value fee. So I'll take the report as read. Any questions about the particular situation? I have to say that I attached a map that was actually more sort of for your information instead of the title plan. I think Wayne is now a beautiful plan, so title plan is actually, yeah, what you need to. So the road to be stopped is basically dissecting the Parkburn quarry in half. And obviously the application is to stop that road related to the land and then be in a position to develop the land. Now, I have to say part of my report also includes a section 345 certificate that is required that the council consider the access or the possible access the public has to a water body. But of course, in this case, there's multiple access points already existing, and also the plan that the planning department have at this stage indicates that the further development would give more than adequate access for public to the lake. So any questions? Otherwise, I propose that you accept the recommendations.
Just for info, I came across Community Board in Cromwell yesterday. Pass no, she had a good chat about what it does to, yeah, that was yesterday.
Yeah.
Came through, we had a look at what it enables, what it disables, and conversation about there's plenty of access to that the front. It doesn't restrict anything, doesn't change anything, really does it? It's nominal for within their potential future development and their access
Just-
for the time being.
Another question, they've been using that sandpit for a while. They forget the road was there. Anyway,
Just
enough. Stop. Any other questions?
No one tries to use the pavement road.
It's not formed.
No, I know, but
Nobody would know about it, to be
sometimes
honest.
people see them and they're like, oh, I can legally use that, but no one's trying.
Because it's not usually visibly known unless you go and do a survey plan nobody normally knows, but technically, legally, somebody could say they want to access that.
Your freedom to walk, people, not be worried.
Yes.
Any other questions? Happy to move?
Move recommendations.
Happy to move recommendation?
Any questions
I know, second.
for that?
Give people the chance to
I'm just asking if there's any further comments or questions.
I did ask that.
Yeah.
Martin, move it. Give it a second. All those in favour? Against, carried. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for checking up. I'm Madam Mayor.
I didn't hear it, sorry, Stu. You must have been talking with a quiet inside voice.
That's normal.
Yeah. Okay, Sarah, community vision and experience.
Alrighty, 25, 21, 26, Roxburgh Entertainment Centre rebuild, project location options, Tara and Mark. And sorry, David will speak when he wants to. Tara.
I will just kick it off and just, February marks 1 year since the fire down there, and I think particularly conscious about the sensitivity of this project in particular, and just a quick walk down. It was only a few months ago, the Rocks or the Tebet Valley Community Board requested council approve the setup of a project steering group, which we currently have, and we've had a couple of meetings for which I'm the sponsor of. Essentially the brief was from council. The long and short of it was we have an overarching brief that the council approved. However, the brief was to rebuild on that site, and so essentially a quick summation of this paper is a request to slightly change the scope and investigate other options that are out there. And essentially that's why it's come back up through the community board here. So just sort of intro that and back over to you. I covered everything. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
Through the chair, so not to keep these people tied up for too long, we leave this on the table to host the public meeting on the first week in December. Because I think as council would like to hear back from that meeting. So I think any discussions about location or anything to do with it should be held over till the council meeting on the 17th. So I don't want to keep you guys tied up for any longer, because I think once the public meeting's held, then we'll be able to have a really good discussion about better understanding coming from the community's perspective. And that'll give the opportunity for the full council to debate that then, not now.
I can answer that operationally from a time point of view. That won't impact any of our operational timelines that we're sort of currently forecasting. So that meeting's on the 11th.
Yeah.
For the rest of people's information.
So no money will be spent. So
The recommendation, option one, was just to allow the steering group to have those discussions. That part of the public meeting will be a part of that discussion anyway.
Exactly. And I think the steering group and staff will be in a far better position to give a consensus feeling about what the public, what the issues are being raised by the community in Roxburgh. We should be listening to that community. So I'll move that we leave this item on the table to be discussed at our December meeting.
could I just?
Anybody else?
Well, just
Could I speak? Yeah. This item is not to choose a location. It's to give choices. That's what the item is on at the moment. It's to give choices. At the moment, there's no choices. So this item is to give choices. There aren't any choices. And by the 11th, there won't have been a adequate development of another choice to be able to say, here is another choice. There may not be another choice. What is being asked on the paper as it stands at the moment is to get a choice, to allow a choice to be considered and developed.
Yeah, correct. The issue is we're being asked to spend $40,000, and I think we have to be mindful that that comes from any insurance payout, well, the insurance payout we will receive. And ultimately, the question we're asking has a cost now, and I think a couple of weeks to hear from the community and bring this back in December will make a better decision on whether it's a worthwhile spend.
Does it have to come from the insurance? It's a district-wide funded, hall's a district-wide funded. So why can't it?
It's not, Roxburgh has $850,000 Tebet Valley in their reserves. That's a decision for council if money was to come from that. But I would imagine part of that fund would also go towards the rebuild of the entertainment centre.
So take me through the next process. If somehow the discussion that's going to be had clearly in a public system. And the insurance money will pay a percentage of whatever a cost will be. It'll come to the decision of council to fund any shortcomings or loans or any other system out of the district-wide pot, not out of the Tebet Community Board money. If there's reserves, they may well, as a decision of council, use reserves first. But any other costing will come out of our general rates of community vision, which could be proceeds of sale of land in Cromwell, or it could be proceeds of other mechanisms. But so I guess if you don't have options on the table to take to a public meeting and go, because at the moment, the way I see it, we've seen it through election times, that all of a sudden, community's not listening to what we say, but we've also a responsibility to all the ratepayers in the district to have a look at all funding models and all options, because the way I see it, as long as I'm sitting at this table, if we've got district-wide funding, part of that shortfall of the Tebet, whatever you decide, it's exactly the same facility, it can be the same bricks, it can be anything. If there is a shortfall, technically, we will have the decision to fund that out of general reserves and or rate for that. So I guess what I'm saying is if money's the issue, that should also be on an option of when your public meeting will get quite animated and sometimes the detail of something.
No options in front of them other than status quo. The current flavour clearly is, let's not change anything. Let's do it the way it was designed in the 1870s for the way the urban town was in the 1870s. Let's ignore any changes since then. Let's just put the same building in the same new building in the same place. That's the only way they will get their emotional attachment resolved, is by putting the same building in the same place. And I think we've got an opportunity to try and revitalise the town, because look at Lawrence, look how that's growing. Look at Milton, look what the council have done for Milton. They're looking after those towns. We have the opportunity here to have dual benefit of replacing a movie theatre, which gets 1,000 people a year, and also putting a hall there and some nice urban renewal, which otherwise won't happen. The town will look exactly the same as it will in 20 years' time. We could put some retail in there. There's an atrium, put some nice retail there, which will give some revenue base. Or we could just say, no, let's not take any responsibility for urban renewal in Roxburgh. Let's just do it exactly where we are at the moment. In the absence of any choice, that is exactly what's going to happen. And I understand those people, that that's what they want to do, because that's all they can see in front of them. There is no option. And so I just think that we should give them an option.
And we're not, by leaving this item on the table to after the public meeting, we're not taking away that option. We're just giving the opportunity for the members sitting around here to vote on it, whether getting a clearer picture from what the public is saying. And totally agree with you coming from, there are some very diverse views out there. And the community has responded to the initial discussions that the Working Party and the Community Board had regarding the potential for a change of venue. And having the opportunity to debate that, and also to raise some of the thinking you've just talked about now at that meeting, is going to give us sitting around this table a better picture to give it, every decision we make, the support that it deserves. And 2 weeks isn't going to kill anybody.
So I guess after that, and who runs the meeting, and what are
The meeting will be run by the steering group. Council staff will be there, but largely Martin and I will be there too.
And I guess what falls out of that, if people say, look, we're interested in change, then we come back to this table and have this meeting again and come up with several options.
One of the things that's going to also come out of that meeting is there's people don't actually understand the process that we have to go through in that design build. And again, it's the lessons we learned the Cromwell Memorial. The steering group now is getting emails from people from clubs who currently utilize the old building, saying this is what they want. They want an area big enough to put 12 indoor bowling mats down, getting quite specific. What the community doesn't understand is that when we engage a project manager or an architect, not us, those professionals will be driving that consultation process. They will be the ones going out, talking to those groups and getting their feedback and incorporating that feedback into the final designs. Just like what happened in Cromwell. There's a perception out there currently, and I totally agree with Mark, it's coming strongly to rebuild like for like. And I can understand why people want that, but that possibly is not the best decision that we as a council will make for the future of CBD in Roxburgh.
So if I'm hearing this correctly, what you're saying is that you're going to, what the proposal is adding another option for this is to leave it on the table until post the meeting. And David, you're adamant that you can get the report back to council in time. Okay, so
I think it'll probably be the same report with the addition.
just an addition. Yep, no problem. So we leave that. Then what happens is you guys will, the steering group, together with staff, will be able to give council the steer on whether you would, the community has said, do this, do that, whatever the community has said. And then from that point, we'll be able to make a decision whether the money is spent or not spent, or how this is to proceed, just to the next step, not the final design and what the building will look like, but just that first step. So because I guess from my perspective, and even hearing this morning in the public forum, we hear very loudly and very strongly from the residents in Roxburgh that they want to be heard. And I'm super conscious that if we don't allow that process to happen, going to end up being, say, we'll make a decision without allowing those people to be heard. And yes, there may be a few steps to be heard, but I think, as Martin pointed out, a couple of weeks it's not going to make an ounce of difference at this, especially at this time of the year for going forward.
This meeting on the 11th is two aspects to it. What Martin said, it's for us to outline the process and the pathways for this rebuild. But more importantly, it's just an outlet for us, for them to be heard, because that's one of the criticisms so far is that they don't feel heard, and that's fair. And waiting for concept designs and architects to engage with the community will be too long for them to be heard, and we need to do something sooner rather than later. And I think we will have more information to make a decision on ultimately spending rebuild money once we've had that meeting. Town hall.
Okay. Has anyone got any more comments or questions?
Is there a step in there that gets?
Oh, sorry, Sarah.
No, like what Mark's saying is there's an option of we do this or we don't do it, but people don't know what the other options are. Does that steering group meeting need to have some perspectives out there to just explain to them, not say it could be here and be this, or it could be here and be that, or it will just be the same thing where it was. Like actually explain.
That's why this public
Staff have done a little bit of work on that.
Yeah.
The 11th is going to be, do you want us to explore other alternatives or not? That's it.
But giving them some
Yes, ma'am.
context to that, like it's hard to say yes if you don't know what that means. Like, does it mean we're going to go and build something with a McDonald's in it and a drive-through down the road, and you've got to go to?
So we're not talking about service in there. It's actually location.
That's what people don't.
If there's no prior public information about an alternative location, and you get that on the 11th, everyone will say, I don't know anything about that. I've walked in this room and my mind is made up.
Exactly, and that's what I mean.
They'll be shouting and yelling and screaming and saying, listening to anything you got to say, I want it that place, that time. That's what will happen. Because between now and then, there's 2 weeks to get that information out there. I don't think it's long enough.
So in that, there must be in the community so excited, is a word, one way or the other, that chat must be talking alternative proposal areas in the town. Like if your public meeting, as long as your public meeting is brought up and maybe this place and then looked at, or do people think that? Because end of the day, we'll make the decision. And if it's 50-50, then it'll come down to how, the battles around here or whatever. And I guess as long as I'm with you on this, Ken, people need to know if the option is we stay where it is and it's done this, it's perfectly the same as it is. It's just a bit fresher and earthquake standards and does this and the wiring might not go on fire or the front door's fine or we go to, this is another option you look at. And in that option, there's facilities that you may not have seen before and it may be more expensive. It may take longer, but that is an option. Or we, you know, I mean, I guess that people got to have that, because we'll make the decision ultimately.
It's going to be hard to get that story out there.
Yeah, that's hard to tell, but
Next
this
10
could be
days.
an option.
Because they'll have 30 seconds to listen to that and they've already
Made their mind up.
made their mind up before they walk. That option hasn't been able to be.
Yeah.
Curtis, do you have any comments on, in relation to how that, the appropriate or the team?
Yeah.
Any
I mean,
appropriate
the
message
time
get
is
out?
against
Can
us.
I make a comment as well, Tracy?
Oh, welcome.
Where'd you come
Mayor
from?
Tamer, wherever you
Sorry,
are.
I'm in Queenstown at the airport and I've just got off the plane. It's so bright because the weather is so amazing in the South Island that I can't see anything.
Here it's
but
not freezing.
I'd just like to double check with the team. Do you think that by the 11th you could have some details on, I guess, the opportunity costs of exploring other options? I don't think it needs to say where other options might be, but it does need to say the extension to the timeline, the extension to the budget potentially, and just so the community really understands what looking at other options means, because I don't want to be a fly in the ointment, but this is the sort of thing that our government has said, stop doing, do what you can afford. And I get that there is an opportunity to explore other options and make sure that what you have is fit for purpose for the next 100 years. And I don't think that what you end up with in the Teviot will be a replica of a building that was built 100 years ago. But I think this is the sort of thing that we are going to have to be really careful when we consider what an alternative looks like.
Yes, we could provide some very high level details on that, which we've already done, but it's not particularly detailed. So
Yeah, there's very
and
much
I think that's
indicative.
what the community want to see. And I think that's that missing link that Curtis has talked about, of they want to understand that process in a bit more detail. And then they can, I guess, give a steer on, hey, are we happy to wait 2 or 3 years, or actually do we want to get cracking?
I'd agree with that.
yes.
We're only hearing from a subset of the community at the moment. And I've been, every chance I get when I talk to someone in general conversation, I ask them what do they think, and at the moment people can see the merit in it, but they're ambivalent to whether it stays on the old site or shifts, right? But that's the extent of the support I'm seeing at the moment. And clearly the opposition to it is the opposition to it. But once again, very small subset of the community that I've heard from, or I am talking to. So we get a room full of 100 people, we'll get a good steer. Hopefully without the emotion, we'll get a bit of clarity and people can see the woods from the trees.
You're gonna get that.
But I think, like, yeah, before we spend money and take months of time and council resources to investigate alternative sites, I think we need a better steer on, is this what we want?
Just asked, are there any possibilities of other sites in the area? I mean,
They've staff have outlined a couple, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Staff have outlined a couple.
Right.
In Main Street.
Yeah.
By no means exhaustive or anything, just drive by sort of thing.
There are 3 aspects to this. There's the timeline, there's the cost, and there's the location. And if we've got other, alternative locations, then perhaps the public meeting also, should actually include where those possible locations are.
And it would have to, it'd have to be an advantage, because realistically, where it stood previously, it's not far out of town anyway. So that actually have to be good reason.
The advantage is urban renewal.
And potentially consolidating council buildership in the town. You have 2 council owned and operated buildings at the moment.
So just practice caution from advertising those locations, because that could commercially affect price. So it's we need to be a little bit high level here.
Yeah.
But I think it's really good. And you say there is a couple of options on the table. What that looks like is there's going to be more remediation associated with those two other alternatives because there are occupied spaces at the moment. They're not a blank canvas like what you're dealing with. And I think as long as you can understand that difference in comparison, you'll know that there'll be extra cost associated with those sites, and it could be quite a bit of time associated with those sites.
One thing about, like you talked about community board, was the activation of the building.
Yeah.
And it's one of the opportunities of a shift is that you would have, if you had the eyesight in the library potentially bundled into it, you would have an activated town hall, so on and so forth. Yeah, not
You've been
just
through this in Cromwell for.
yeah. So but people just need to hear it in plain language and, you know.
Those cost implications, do they flow back into the budget? So then you've got less money to build?
Effectively, if this
Just not elsewhere.
It's not defined because
Yeah.
there's fundraising opportunities.
Yeah.
So when people talk about a budget, they think insurance payout only, but who says that the current site's limited to that?
But that is the current constraint. So if you just took everything off the table, your constraint is how much money you're getting on insurance, and you've already got the land that we own to build it on. If you put those two equations together, you're going to get an outcome that would be possibly acceptable. It doesn't mean you can't go fundraise for more money and to build something else, or to approach council and say, can we use some of the reserves to create something a little bit better? Those are the options that you actually need to be looking at. But with different location, and because they are occupied sites, there's an extra cost to that. I think that's the only thing we need to be making clear, is that yes, you can move the location, and this is going to be quite emotive. They are very passionate people. When that fire went up, I mean, I was standing in their community, everyone was out in the street, right? And it was a very upsetting experience. So there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be emotionally tied to that, what was, and to that site. But this is about looking at alternatives and saying, yes, it might cost. And would there be a better outcome? And I think that's something we need to be exploring. Would you get a better outcome than this? And then make an informed decision.
What about our grandchildren?
As we're not doing a job right if we don't look at all the options on the table and make options, and that's the directive of staff. You must come to us with options, and the community have their say.
And which I'd like to clarify. So Curtis mentioned the steering group. That David, Torr, and myself are part of that steering group as well. So we have got the council staff in there. However, this is a community project, which is why we have the steering group in the first place. We don't want to be dictating here. The community run.
And that's why I think it's important that we hear from the community sooner rather than later before we make decisions.
And outside of that meeting on the 11th, is there anything that's going on trying to poll the public in the area?
There's a loose form of feedback and an email address is set up for ideas, mainly centered around high level, kind of like what people would like to see in the building, but it's that email address has been largely incoming with people's opinions on changing the site. So that's forwarded. The staff have that. Martin has those emails.
As you just the other sort of operations stuff, we're setting up project pages like we do on Let's Talk for our project. So things like that and platforms so people can start tracking all of this stuff and sort of seeing information right there as well. So the team is working on that as well. Yeah.
I think the big thing to remember is outside of making sure that the community is involved, there is the moment that there is the possibility of change. It involves the entire district, not just Roxburgh. So, and that's where the potential for additional time come into it. So, but that's something that needs to be presented to the community so that the community is forewarned with all of that. I guess the big thing would be is how to get that information to people potentially before the meeting so that they can be, and we have had a suggestion from the public forum this morning in relation to a mail drop. I don't know what's the possibility of those types of how to get the information out so people can digest it and come to the meeting with a level of calm and rather than coming to the meeting with their pitchforks.
When's your next community board meeting?
February.
Next year. We just had one last week.
So how did that go? Must have had a steer on it.
Yeah, well, we discussed this very topic. It was and we voted
that we would bring it to this table.
That's why this
And
is.
we would look for the option
Yeah.
to have choices.
So I guess what I'm saying is that the community then now knows what the board are looking at, opening their eyes and their arms out. So it's been in the public forum in that context anyway.
Yes.
The general consensus that I get is that people in the community view that these decisions have been made without consultation, and that's the biggest issue at the minute. So I think if there's another decision to be made, I think it needs to have some form of consultation attached to it.
But no matter what you're into, no matter where you are in council or community board, they'll always say we don't get enough consultation. A lot of cases you can do what you want. But if you have a public meeting, you're doing it.
Yeah. We're already doing, no matter what happens right now, there's going to be a public meeting to outline the processes and the pathways, because that's the biggest gap, is that people literally think we are set up to design this building. We're not, and they don't understand timelines, they don't understand processes attached to this project. And so either way, there's a meeting down the line there.
So Martin's put the motion forward that it lays on the table. So that's option 3. That would need to be created. They don't actually lays on the table. We don't have enough options.
So we just leave that.
Leave it on the table, pending the meeting, and it comes back with the steering group.
To come back to the December meeting.
But
It was moved by Martin, second Curtis.
So moved by Martin, second by Curtis.
Favour?
All those in, sorry, Sarah.
Between the two, that's fine. It's obviously the chair, it's not the person. Shut up.
Because they're in the position at the top of the table.
No, just
they can't help themselves.
Some used to do the same.
She'll be online in a minute throwing darts.
She hadn't slept for 2 days.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay, thanks, Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, that's.
PM on the 11th.
Sorry.
50 years ago.
Oh, it's all right, it's only.
Provincial.
Ah,
Well, no, because people say this is a decision is emotional. Many different people make it. No consultation. Yeah.
I didn't get a chance. I was going to show this. It was going to 62 shops in Lipsbury.
Righty ho.
All right, 25/21/6, Tourism Central Otago, Destination Management Updates.
Good morning, everyone, and new councillors around the table. So I'm Ants Longman, Head of Destination. So Tourism Central Otago is the regional tourism organisation for the district. We work to the Central Otago Destination Management Plan that was set up or endorsed by council and Mana Whenua in 2022. And this update's around just kind of keeping you abreast of the different work streams that we've got going on and progress around that. And that's in the report, which in general I'll take as read. I have sent Wayne some slides, so we'll get some visuals to complement the report. Obviously, he's getting that ready. To support Tourism Central Otago with this and the region, we do have our Destination Advisory Board that meets 4 to 5 times per year as well, which is a range of representatives from the community, the business sector, both locally and nationally, as well as youth and Mana Whenua representation. So our next meeting for that board is next Tuesday down in Roxburgh. So that kind of gives us a sounding board. Are we tracking well? And in line with the ambition set out in the plan. I will take questions at the end from the report, but just as a bit of a guideline, you can jump from that one, Wayne. I've done that intro already. So why does council invest in destination management and tourism? It's really making sure that our place is developed and managed in a way in line with our community's ambitions, and that visitation brings benefits to our community economically, socially, culturally, and environmentally. This has been, and that we protect what's really important to our place as much as we can. Therefore, attracting visitors that are like-minded and value what's important to our people. Jump to the next one, please, Wayne. The plan's broken into 10 building blocks, and that's how this report's been laid out in terms of just giving you an update across different pieces of work that lay within those areas. The full plan is available online on the centralotagaNZ.com website if you haven't seen it distributed. To the next one, please, Wayne. This is an example I've actually taken from British Columbia, just kind of explaining the role of the visitor journey around how important it is to kind of captivate future audiences. This is part of our work, making sure they're aware of what's available, they're inspired, they want to come and see what is special about our world of difference here in Central Otago. And we do this working storytelling, working with media, various things, and getting that out across various channels, whether that's our own channels, working with media, doing paid advertising on pieces. Then we've got a role in when people are on the ground, how do they move through the district? How are they inspired to connect? Part of that is our eyesights in Ranfurly and Roxburgh, but also how do we connect with them through the other channels they're using when they're on the ground? Then we also need to obviously connect these people with the visitor experiences, whether that's their accommodation, the food, hospitality experiences, and making sure that or supporting those businesses to meet and exceed the expectations of the visitors so that we generate positive word of mouth. And that's again touched on in the report in terms of our NPS scores, which is the NPS is the net promoter, the chance or likelihood of someone being an advocate for the place, and we generally are tracking above benchmark both domestically and in Australia as our two core audiences. And then in terms of advocacy, that we want to get value out of these visitors for our community. So actually, are we representing the interests of our community locally, nationally, in different areas? And is there other parts and other sectors that can benefit through tourism? So there's previously been research into the lifetime value, and those who visited Central Otago and have affinity for our place are more likely to buy our wine or our fruit, connect back, or want to send their family here for different reasons. Fine. So we've got a few examples of some of the pieces of work we've had happening recently. So grouped around our kind of content and campaign activity. A lot of this is connected to our cycle trails, our food and beverage, our arts and our heritage. These are all screen grabs from a collaborative piece for Otago Trails Marketing with a platform called Escape Video. So we had 3 weeks ago. They were in region for a week. They filmed across all of the Central Otago trails, as well as down into Clutha and around Queenstown as our partners in this project. These pieces of content collectively have had about 1.5 million views across Escape Video's platforms. If you go on there or onto the rail trail page in different places, amazing engagement through their channels. So this is a channel developed by Brooke Sabin, who used to be the travel editor for Stuff Media. So he's able to get this content out with a range of great storytelling himself and his partner, and pulls that out of people. You can see some characters there like Ken Gillespie and the stories that he can tell out at Hayes Engineering. Stu might even be able to see his house in one of those pictures, potentially. Second from the left, out at Wedderburn Cottages. So that's just one way that we're out there. And we're always hosting media. This week we've had another journalist out on the rail trail doing a family rail trail experience in line with celebrating the 25 years of the Otago Central Rail Trail this year. And those pieces of content, they might be developed now. We might host journalists now, and that content might come out next month, or it could come out in 6 or 18 months later. And a lot of that works, like Ellie, sitting in the corner and nurturing our relationships with the media. And then it's really important we obviously keep our operators updated and that they're able to leverage these opportunities as well. So having networking events and education pieces. Please, Wayne. Travel trade, business events, and supporting industry. So we've got various pieces of work. So that picture in the middle is yesterday in Auckland. That is Andrea at the Business Events Expo up in Auckland. So we've got Central Otago Business Events as a membership program for those businesses interested in attracting business events in incentive groups into Central Otago. Andrea's up there connecting with key conference organisers and incentive agents around what Central Otago can offer them. Very excited and lots of obviously enthusiasm towards what's coming in Cromwell. And so that's really kind of how do we build on that momentum and bring in different pieces and closely in with David and Jen and now Will with that around how do we leverage that opportunity of the Cromwell Events Memorial Hall and Event Centre for the benefit of the wider district. And on the right hand side is just, that's a picture from earlier in the year of just a travel trade event where we're out educating New Zealand based travel sellers on how they can incorporate Central Otago into people's holiday plans. Here's Wayne. And then what's really important and kind of come through a lot stronger over the last 3 to 5 years is our role in kind of facilitating other parts of the tourism system and collaborating with our partners. So we started some work through COVID around how do we support our event sector, a bit of a framework around council's role and Tourism Central Otago's role in supporting events. Alongside that, we do where we can, but that means leverage other opportunities. So in the last year, there's been funds coming out of central government to support events, tourism boost events. So we have had 2 events receive promotional funding earlier this year around, so that was the New Zealand Grand Prix at Highlands and Blossom Festival thing. And they have got another fund out at the moment where there are 4 events looking to do things in Central Otago, but there's been no announcements from government in that space currently, but could be any time. The middle one is obviously Naseby Night Sky accreditation this year. Amazing piece of work from that community group. So we had a bit of a role in kind of helping tell that storytelling around the announcement and helping with some media and PR reach that got as far as South Korea and various things through leveraging Tourism New Zealand connections. Then we've got partnership with New Zealand Cycle Trails, that's Australian Geographic Adventure magazine, third picture in. So cover picture of Roxburgh Gorge, but that's profiling all the 23 great rides around New Zealand. Selector magazine there, for the person sitting down, is an Australian food and beverage magazine. We partnered with Central Otago Wine Growers Association to bring in their editor, and he's doing 2 destination and industry people pieces in that publication next year. And on the right was the September edition of Kia Ora magazine. This was kind of a merging of our collaborations of both Otago Trails Marketing and the Southern Way collaboration. Ended up with an 8-page spread in Kia Ora focusing in on the trails across the Southern Way regions. Please, Wayne. So what's coming up? Looking forwards, as I've already touched on, we've got excitement and opportunity that comes from Memorial Hall and Event Centre, and that's not just in that space. It's that's bringing interest in other areas around what other investment and opportunities come out of the back of that. So we're looking at what's our role working with other departments around supporting and facilitating anything there. Southern Way at the top with Tourism Boost. So Southern Way is the 8 RTOs south of the Waitaki River, collaborating on trying to encourage multi-regional longer stay visitation, primarily domestic and Australia. We had confirmed a week and a half ago 373,000 from MB for a campaign into the Gold Coast to drive additional visitation for the first quarter of next year, January till March. So that's really focusing in on the new Jetstar flights into Dunedin. So how do we leverage that and encourage people? It's also got a real focus on food and hospitality. We have a dual Minister of Tourism and Hospitality, so she's kind of trying to merge those pieces and how do we grow both parts of the sector. And then they've got another fund round that hasn't been announced yet, which would be for additional campaigns for April, May, June in terms of extending the season, getting the visitation. So we've got an application in there as well. Eventful Central, again, just continuing how and where what do we do in supporting events. And it was requested earlier by council for us to come back with a paper around what that potential district events fund could look like. So that's something we'll be coming back to you in the future, very distant future. The tourism growth roadmap is piece of work driven by Minister Louise Upston around initially getting international visitation back to 2019 numbers, to getting 3.9 million international visitors by the end of next year. It is very ambitious. They're wanting to obviously increase the economic impact of tourism as one of the key drivers for their economic growth plans, but it's really looking in at the system and function of the tourism sector. So there's a lot of pieces of work in there that we're connected to, and it's an interesting piece, and we're expecting that there'll be come out of that in the new year as they move more from driving demand to the supply side destination management. And then a few other exciting pieces on coming down the line with the Kawerau Gorge Trail extension, which obviously if you're driving through towards Queenstown, each time you go through, you see diggers in different places. Indications that will be a late summer currently. And then just this week, they've confirmed they're actually down with diggers onto the actual trail build down for the link in the Roxburgh Gorge. So very exciting for all parts of our region as those connect up, that people will be able to get to Alexandra and turn left into a rail trail or turn right down into the Teviot. And then further on, they'll have that Wanaka link connection as well. And the other piece we're kind of working on in the background is how do we deliver and present our visitor information in our eyesights, and what other opportunities could there be to present that information differently in a digital space or utilising other council-owned facilities, and can we lean into kind of doing things a little bit differently and opening up that inspiration side of things for our visitors and our community around the different projects in the plan. So that's a lot. And yeah, definitely, I think like all departments of council, we're moving ahead a lot with a lot of moving parts nationally and things like that. But I think Central Otago is, like we know, Central Otago, Otago and Southland are that area that's doing better than others in the country, and we've got to remember that. We have had a very soft domestic market for the last 12 months, but I think hopefully we're turning the corner there and we're getting some really good traction and opportunity in the short haul national markets. Questions?
Oh, thank you. What I'm going to ask. 2 or 3 things I've got actually. Work that's been done in probably the bow wave of tourists that are going to come down our channel, I think, and if you look at our bookings are up. But there's more pubs for sale than ever before, and food houses with those businesses. I'm not going to say it, they're struggling. And the local government provincial the other day, there was IRD pulled 72 or something businesses in the Hawke's Bay, Gisborne regions. That I'm worried we're pushing the cart before the horse. That I know that the business or flow will make a difference to those businesses, but is there any work, because a lot of them for sale, is there any link between businesses looking to come here who want to buy to existing businesses? Because I think that's probably where the link is missing. And it may be expectation of value of what their businesses are worth. And if you see all this potential here, go, I'm going to hold out and the pub will be shut wherever the pub might be shut. But there hasn't been a lot of investment, I guess, going into the part that is a key driver of the tourism as the people experience. So I guess that's, look at Hyde, their merchant bankers came from Singapore or wherever, that they met on the trail, they met with the economic development or some guys. Are you seeing an interest in people coming to look at businesses on the rail trail or on Central in general, or just tourists looking for an experience they may only be getting 80%?
I'll answer, and might have some other answers from the economic development side of things. I think we do, like recognising that feedback, especially around that service offering and availability and consistency of hours, is challenging, especially along the rail trail. And it's something we work closely where we can with the Rail Trail Trust and Operators Group, and there's a lot of initiatives coming in there. So a little bit of sometimes the challenge in some of those businesses where people might be tired or sitting there wanting to sell a business and it's not selling, you can lead a horse to water in terms of improved service offering. Can't make it drink. We are investigating what are some of those opportunities when we're talking about investment cases. That's not just new investment. That could be how do we encourage or highlight the opportunities that are there with existing businesses. And I think the succession planning for our district is really significant as well. We do have probably, I don't have any data, Nick might, in terms of an older business, older community to start with, but also older business owners. So how do we help those businesses set themselves up so they are in the best position to attract future owners? You can do it.
Cool. No, I think you've covered it well between that succession and then also, how do we encourage investment into the district? So that is, I do get regular contact from people who are looking to buy businesses or real estate agents looking to sell businesses around background data. It could be cycle trail numbers, et cetera, et cetera. We've also done, Brant's has done a report through his team projecting the future growth and interest in cycle trails as well. And that's really trying to help those businesses in the game or those ones coming into it understand what's coming down the pipeline so that they can invest as early as possible rather than, constantly playing catch up. It is something, Stu, that I am, and I think we are aware of in terms of, what other opportunities are out there to have a more sort of targeted look at encouraging investment into set areas, been quite specific around that. It would be in the influencing stage, Stu, it would be more, how do we create more data, more information so that investors looking into it would have a bit of a springboard platform.
And I guess the businesses that you're trying to encourage people into will say that council's compliance costs are too dear. It's too dear doing business in a normal year. And that would be regardless, no different than council insurance and everything else. The cost of doing business is expensive, but licensing and alcohol licensing, food licensing has got, if you talk to the publicans, it gets to stage, and then even the employment, whether we have the same shake-ups in those roles with the government now, they haven't read anyone. But really the cost is the biggest thing of running businesses. And my fear is if you take the statistics that they said at rural and provincial, and if I've got an assistant accountant in Nelson district, the same thing is happening. The small businesses are getting squeezed out and IRD is squeezing them out. And I guess we've got to be very careful when promoting, pushing, because I think the push is going to come definitely the way it is with so much happening that we've got the facilities to do it. And the other thing is that tourism, not advisory board, the tourism strategy we had 2 or 3 years ago, and 380 people submitted to that saying we didn't want tourism back to those numbers. It came loud and clear. We wanted the numbers to stay at the sort of in between COVID and our level. That you got a directly opposite to what the government's wanting. Yeah. So I guess the point is, why did we go to consult on the tourism network when really one next change of government wanted to completely back the other way?
I think I agree. The approach generally nationally was around, how do we maximize the value out of those who are coming so that we're actually, able to cope with demands. And that's obviously different across every district in the country. This current government's goal is that economic growth and that KPI of getting those numbers back, which does bring risk and challenge to community sentiment towards tourism. But that's exactly why we have the destination management plan and why we want to stay true to that. It had a 50-year ambition. A lot of the building blocks are based on things that are a kind of 10-year horizon, but we need to keep reviewing that in line with these different pieces that are coming in. I think positively, whilst the 3.9 million goal from the government by the end of next year, they are looking at what supply side interventions could come in there once they're there. Like they've been pretty clear across all areas that economic growth isn't the number one thing because they need to be able to pay the bills and run the schools and build the hospitals and etc. And that's going to come from increased GST take and export value. But they are open to that changing over time. And the minister has been very clear, and we met with the Labor Tourism Hospitality spokesperson a couple of weeks ago, and he was clear too. He's being updated across this tourism growth roadmap plan. And generally they might not agree on all aspects or priorities within it, but they are trying to set something up that sets the tourism sector relevant to political circles.
And I guess another question on that came clear at the local government meeting the other day is bed tax. And why? There's two things in that. One, the government's putting money into tourism that is a direct subsidy to tourism, it's not a subsidy to any other business. We put $380,000 into flights for promotion of a, that's relevant. But the bed tax, if you're going to buy into a business in Central Otago, buy a motel or a hotel, how do you know where your actual net profit or cost is going to be? Because you don't know what you're going to be taxed on top of your normal tax and running business. So how would you encourage development, knowing that you may or may not have to pay another percentage of running your business you don't know what it is?
The direction of travel from the government is that some form of bed tax or bed levy at some point. They've been very clear that it's not this term. And it's in theory, and again, it depends on the semantics, and it is a cost to the business. They're going to collect it and then pay it. I think some people will argue that that's a cost on the visitor and you're putting it on top of your piece. So again, a large part of that will be how it's communicated, but it is adding, as you say, and an additional cost and additional process upon.
Yes, if you want investment into something like the rail trail, you're starting out and you go to your back, because then everyone has to be paid. The whole thing about what the government pushing for is more money inside. But how do I go to the bank and say I'm going to build 50-bed accommodation, but I don't know what it's going to cost me? You know, like you can have investment, you can have investment in it. It's like saying I'm going to put a cherry orchard in, but I haven't got any water.
And that was the same message that we did give to the visiting MP, was that businesses do better under a consistent environment. It's the change that we're trying to improve on, and the uncertainty.
And I guess in your advisory board, you've got youth representatives and I guess the school representatives. And I understand they play a major role, but really it's all about pay and being paid. It's about money. And I guess it's investment we want, as well as you thinking about it, because in the last destination report, it was that the youth didn't want to see the numbers, but actually they're the ones that need the jobs if they're going to stay in our region. How do we get that balance, make sure that the balance is right? Because if you don't have the hotels, you don't have the motels and the beds or the jet boat operators, you don't have the work.
Just a quick one. Obviously we've got the close to being finished build in Cromwell, and I know that's generating a lot of super excitement, which is really fantastic. But it'd be really interesting to know whether there is any smaller conferences that said they would like to come to Central Otago that don't need a 500 seat.
You've got a little room as well.
You've got a little room. But what I'm thinking, we've heard today from Roxburgh, they're going to be in time building a new building that will be fit for purpose for that type of thing. You've got the Manihirakia pub coming to fruition, and that will be done in hopefully just shy of a year's time. So there's going to be some other offerings other than just. So I think as a region, we will have the ability to have big and small conferences, which I think will be super exciting.
And I guess that's the thing. So we set up Central Otago business events in COVID when there was no international travel around that domestic audience of small conference, corporate retreats, etc. So yeah, there's a mix of public and private spaces that can be used in that, and that's kind of been the key part of our business events offering. Now we're kind of being able to cater for that next size, and if we get some new facilities in there, it gives people opportunities, and then it's leaning into our regional strengths and the types of events that logically will come here, whether that is horticulture, viticulture and things like that, and what are those industry groups and how do we partner with them because they'll have their conferences probably on some kind of cycle, it might be 4 or 5 years they move around the country. So how do we position that and work with the community experience team or the whole team and our other partners to bring those in? And as more of that comes, that's going to hopefully kind of show and encourage that investment in accommodation stock and communities around that.
Got every type of venue covered across the region, haven't we? Or whatever you're after.
Just an observation, the word leaning in, it seems to have come in the last 2 weeks. You hear it on TV and radio. Who started it?
Leave them alone.
I don't watch TV, so they must think.
Lean into this.
What's the process of filling that vacancy on the board? Because it's an appointment, isn't it, that Chris has left? What happens there, timeline?
So I had hoped to be filling it before this meeting, but just haven't had the capacity, so we'll be looking to advertise for that in the new year. So that was an appointed role, so we put that out through the market. Really, especially there, trying to get that kind of perspective. Chris, we were very fortunate to have Chris in that role, as we are with every board member. So just looking at what gaps we've got around the board. So we'll be talking with them next week around whether they think we need a stronger voice or knowledge set.
Yeah. Anybody else? All right. The recommendation is just to receive the report, no content. So have I got a mover for that?
I'll do that.
I'll put his hand up before you shouted over. I'll let Bob have that one. You can second. You can second. Still, you're all right. All in favour? Yes. Carried.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda, we're going to leave that to sit, please, Wayne, until Tamer Worship gets back. So that's item 25.21.7, just so that we've actually got it here in the room. So we'll move on to 25.21.8, which is the elected members' remuneration.
Do we extend it?
Page 48 on your main agenda.
Oh, it's actually this afternoon now. So at the start of every trading, well, every year, the Remuneration Authority gives us a figure to no, that's at the start of every trading. They give us a figure that we need to use to pay elected members or councillors for their work. The determination this year had it $421,193, and so that's divvied up by jobs. Dealt by the mayor, and it includes the ratios which you can see there on page 49 as to how the money's based on those ratios, and then that gets forwarded on to the Remuneration Authority, who will make a determination, hopefully coming up shortly, pre-Christmas, and then they'll make another one in March, but hopefully we'll be getting into the pre-Christmas one. So I'm happy to take any questions on we're obliged to use all the money.
Yeah.
The Remuneration Authority says you will spend this money, and we do. We can't get into any of the sort of, we're not going to take all the money or whatever like that. And we're instructed you will take the money. So that's
so if you set out in a group like the transport group, that's not a part of your remuneration here.
No,
just
no, it's not.
So it's just a part of what you do.
Well, I suppose you can say for the transport group, you could probably say that the part of the portfolio lead is that work. Yeah.
Okay. With a mover and a
I'll
second.
move that.
Thank you, Stu. Thank you, Sarah. All those in favour? Against? Carried.
Argue that situation and people run businesses and have to give up their time. It's still not enough money to actually do the director of your own company. You had to take time to pay someone else your wages. You're really voluntary.
Love Stu.
Love. Yes.
Okay, moving on. Have we got Bex here?
Yep.
There she is.
Steers.
Meredith, that's-
Kim then by a bloke in
so that's the Bannockburn Forestry Block Harvest.
trees.
Oh, got the big.
Big hitters there.
Got the big hitters in.
Are they standing?
So that's page 52.
So they're still standing.
Hello. I take the report as read. The purpose of the report in front of you is to consider the removal of approximately 60 hectares of forestry on the Sand Flat Road Forestry Block in Bannockburn. In September, both board and council approved the 19 hectares to be felled as part of the Bannockburn Industrial Development. The trees on both sites now are reaching an age where we're looking at increased operational costs. They're both 40 plus years old. And it just makes economic sense to do them both at the same time. A version of this report was presented to the Cromwell Community Board yesterday, and there was good discussion around future use of the 60 hectares and the suggestion that we do some investigation into other alternative uses.
Any questions? Question about carbon credits. Says investigate the cost to replant the site to retain the carbon status. Does that actually mean that we're losing carbon status, carbon figures here? Do we have to actually replace that with anything?
No, you can just forfeit your carbon credits back.
Right. Okay.
Now, could there have been carbon credits got on that? It's been in there for at least 50 years, prior to 1989.
That's the problem. Pre-98, 1989 is existing stock. So it's deemed that it was a perpetual for, well, yeah. Anything post 1990, you can register or
anything credits. Yeah.
So that's the issue.
That's why when you look at the values, are pretty low. Yeah, but they talk about a fine if you take it out. What is, you got any idea what the fine would be?
So you reduce carbon credits and it's, there's an associated cost with that. And that can be quite a substantial amount of money. But what we're asking is for instruction for staff to investigate alternative investments that might not have so many repercussions that actually give us a better return.
Don't have the exact buyout figure of it just yet. However, it's a 2-year replanting window before you have to make a decision if you want to forfeit that. So that would be part of our investigation of one option to come back to the community board and council would be, do we replant? And it would likely be a more expensive species that was, non-wilding and all of that kind of stuff. It might have some natives throughout it and things like that too, to try and maintain those credits. And the community board today, I don't know if you've got the resolutions in front of your Bex, but they wanted staff to go off and find alternative uses for that land as well, which it was in public discussion. One of them was solar being an option. Another one was planting out some different types of trees. I think another one was, could there be a portion sectioned off for other recreational activities, things like that. So staff would go away and explore a whole lot of options to come back to the community board and the council with associated costs. The actual dollar figure of the carbon buyout don't have to hand just now. Take a bit of work for us to work through that again.
But you wouldn't want to replant it, would you?
I mean,
you wouldn't want to replant it with anything other than a stone.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, that they're not high quality trees. I think.
And I guess if you want to play the carbon game, you'd argue the community board should be buying land somewhere where they've got a faster growth rate on carbon.
Yeah.
Reinvest in another province or another region.
That's endowment land.
Yeah.
Endowment land. Yeah.
The cost of buying back your carbon will fall on the endowment value of Cromwell Community Board.
Stable, I suppose.
Carbon off the endowment land, you pay out of the endowment land, buddy.
So the-
They're not eligible because they're existing stock, is that right?
When you've used the word retain the carbon credit, are you talking about there's already credits for that now?
So with the associated block, if we harvest it and replant, we don't lose or gain any carbon credits. So it's just retained.
If you don't replant,
If you don't replant, you lose your carbon
You
credits.
have liability to pay
Back.
but if it's pre-89 or 19,
It's existing stock, so you can't even, are you earning carbon credit on it at the moment?
No, so
No, so it's a liability only.
it's a static carbon. So you release that carbon and you've got to pay an associated cost with that.
Trees won't cover the cost of the carbon you have to pay back.
No,
I doubt it. Yeah, it's not a good investment.
And I guess even freighting that, you know, like if they went to export, you know, our closest ports are Bluff or Dunedin. So that, yeah, probably 1,500 a truckload. So you break even at best. And I guess the reason, just to add to what Bex was saying, awesome overview. We're harvesting for the industrial block beside the transfer station, and these trees are in that 40 years old, and sort of their max life is that they are coming up on their limits. And so we thought it'd be best to bring the option to the community board council that if we're harvesting one, that we do it all together to make it most cost effective. One of our biggest costs in harvesting any of our forests is the setup costs of bringing all the equipment in. So
And that'll be, to be fair, that'll be really tough at the moment while the gangs are everywhere else.
Yeah.
It'll be 2 years before you can probably get a gang here, wouldn't it?
yeah, well, we're forecasting around the April period is
Next year, yeah.
what we're using as.
Because I was actually with some forestry guys on the weekend, and a lot of them will not leave their actual forestry blocks because they got to leave. They can't get back to harvest their own rotations. And of course, with the wood shop being in, they've only got 6 months for the trees to have fallen. If they don't get it now, they're just going to walk away from them. So
Yeah.
it'd be tough getting the gang.
Yeah, the winds, there could be a change in that timeline, but
So do you have, oh no, it's different. Do you have figures on any liability on your Bannockburn industrial block for the carbon?
We don't, not at hand, but that's all been taken into the equation. So effectively, when I looked at this, I said harvesting 19 hectares of Bannockburn and then de-stumping, so losing your carbon plus your de-stumping costs would be quite substantial. So I said to David, well, what if we harvest the other 60 hectares? Because at that stage, there wasn't any thought of a different type of investment. So harvest the other 60 hectares, replant that and put a weed mitigation program in place, and then use the additional profits to help de-stump the industrial land. But now we've thrown it more out there. That's still an option. It's just with log prices being the way they are at the moment, I'd be really surprised how much money we would actually gain out of this at all.
So the time it's harvested and any carbon liability is paid back, it's actually a question around what's the land use, not actually trees for sale,
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah, the trees are.
What's the
Yeah,
value
the
of that
trees
trees
are
on it?
not going to wash their face by the sounds of it.
No.
That's, can we release the land for a better use?
Correct. That's what I was
Subdivision.
What's the option of leaving the trees there perpetuity? Because that's what I'm saying.
So then they
You can leave them in perpetuity, or have we got a better land use option?
correct, and that's what we're going to go investigate.
Yep.
Because you can't, you have to do harvesting cycles. You can't leave it in perpetuity because of the fact that they start costing you money to a certain period of time.
So can you tell me the cost involved with this? This is, where is that being borne by paying for those costs of harvesting?
Yep. So the way it works is the industry actually dictates that. So they negotiate. It doesn't cost the ratepayers any money whatsoever. Put it up to tender. A whole lot of companies come back to us and they basically do all the setups, lay the benches, harvest, and then they give you two options. You can take a percentage on the day on the market, or they can guarantee you a percentage. So when they guarantee you a percentage of profits, it's obviously less. And if you take it on the day, it could be less than that, or it could be more. You get those gains. So one, you've got surety and no risk, and the other one, you've got risk associated with that. But it doesn't cost the ratepayers any money whatsoever. Now you're adding de-stumping into the equation. That is going to cost, and that's what we're going to be looking for, costs associated with that work. And then, of course, what is the decision on sandpit? Because even if we explore alternate investment opportunities in that land, you might have to de-stump that land as well. That's 60 hectares of de-stumping. Or it might only be a stump grinding, or it might be able to be left depending on what we look at for that land usage. So it's a whole lot of different options.
And the carbon liability.
Well, the carbon, if you're not going with trees going back,
Yeah.
you're liable.
Yeah, so, yeah.
So who's going to pay that?
Yeah.
Look, the issue there is if it's on endowment land, how do you take?
Cells that'll be paying that carbon.
Yeah, you're gonna.
So we'll surrender our carbon because I think we've got about 8,000 units or something like that. We'll surrender that in. That won't cover the full cost of it. And I think Bannockburn worked out to about $300,000 was the cost associated with that. I don't know what Sandflat would be, but they would come out of land sales.
You can't approach the government and say, can we offset it in parks and rec and the trees we have got in the town and try to play that game?
Not in the ETS, so it won't work.
Yes. I mean, and we will look at all options. I have tasked my team with looking at what we deem as dead land to see if we can plant out the forestry blocks. But there is
Yeah, we did look at a couple of, I mean, generally, we have a lot of reserve land, but it's, different status and different usage. So we will look at all the different alternatives of potentially moving that. if we can. So.
Do you have a budget figure for the de-stumping of the industrial block?
Sorry, say that again?
Do you have a figure for the de-stumping of the industrial?
No, not yet. We haven't gone to market for that yet.
Usually not cheap, and just to give you a bit of an idea, one that has been around this table as well, just working on one of the developments at the top of the town here, that was somewhere around sort of 20,000 roughly. So, and that depending on your method that you take, if you taking a digger and digging the stone out and then disposing it as well, it's generally not great wood. There's lots of costs associated with that too. So I guess when we
tipping,
so the plan would be to when we fell the other one, get the other land prepped for sale, and then work on options for the 60 hectare development, which maybe replanting, maybe a whole lot of other uses that could.
Yeah, we've got 2 years to make that decision.
I'm just conscious that you've got in there as recommendation F, approves the removing of the dog movement status on both sites.
Talked about that at community board too.
What was the result of the community board's discussion? Because I can imagine that's going to generate some heat.
Yeah. The biggest thing for the community is that we haven't progressed a dog park of any description. There is a designated off-leash area down on Alpha Street, down along the river, but not fenced, not a park, just a rec area. So we're losing 2 here. And they're well used. Yeah, they do come with risk. We have.
So we had this discussion yesterday. There is associated risk. Got some undesirables who will go and do fly tipping and whatever. And last year there was a lady who ran a dog through there and got really badly cut up with glass and stuff like that. So there's associated risk for council to have that type of a dog area. A more acceptable approach would be a fenced area dedicated to dogs being off leashes. And that can be a nice, safe, controlled area.
But one thing that's been discussed several times, and we're looking at if there is money changing hands for the different areas here, that some funds are put aside to do better with the Alpha Street Reserve. So fencing that and looking at an investment there. So we're taking with one hand, but giving something better in effect, because the risk factor of the Alpha Street is a lot lower, isn't it? I mean, that's a much safer, better option. So I think if we put that out there as a potential, taking this away and doing nothing is poor form. We can't just do that, but it isn't the best site. It's just what we've got right now, isn't it? So looking at being active there and trying to improve Alpha Street and any funds that we can get out of this.
It's about trees, isn't it?
Sorry?
At the end of the day, it's about the trees.
Secondary activity is quite important because it's got a knock-on effect to the community otherwise. So it is.
Sorry, like Bannockburn sluicing's is dog friendly as well.
Yeah.
So there are the alternatives in their vicinity.
But being cognizant of that is important.
It's been out to the public. Right, so we've got quite a suite of recommendations there. Have we got anyone who would like to recommend A through F in its entirety? Thank you, Stu. Seconder. Thank you, Curtis. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Okay, Amelia, lucky last before lunch.
Oh, it's a good slot.
Yeah. Probably better than just after lunch.
And the good news for all of you is it's going to be quick. So, so this is the public reporting of the Key Risk Register. And this is the third month of reporting on the same quarterly update. So the register was last updated in September. And the most recent update has been undertaken, and that will be delivered to the Audit and Risk Committee the week after next. And then the revised information will come to this forum following week. So I'll take it as read because you've had this previously, but does anyone have any questions on those risks?
Comment. Not just Lady Cromwell picked something up. It's obviously important, and did say that the last publication had reference to you being brought into the public forum and being very well received. So good that that information is going out publicly, and we've always known it and we understand what audit and risk does and how it does it and why and what's sensitive and what's not. But I think it's really good that we're bringing some of that out a bit more for public consumption and not being afraid to own, because that risk isn't always bad. So explaining that is a good thing, and having the socialisation of it's really good. So it's a really positive move, and you're doing a great job of bringing it in here and making it understandable as well. So
Yes, if there's any feedback on how we could break this down further publicly, then.
Cheryl?
I've just got a question with regard to the Three Waters activity. That will remain, won't it? That will remain on our key risk register even after have transferred to the Southern Water Done Well.
So it will remain in some way. The risk description will probably change, but yes, there will definitely, we will still hold that risk in relation to the oversight of that CCO and essentially the delivery of the water services.
The drivers of that risk, correct me if I'm wrong, is the financial sustainability of providing Three Waters. So that risk will move though.
Somewhat.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are elements that will be retained by us, but obviously the entity will hold its own risks, and they will probably be focused on what the affordability is from their point of view as a single organisation, and we will have that oversight of what does this look like as a council, council controlled organisations. Welcome, Saskia.
Sorry, just sneaking to the table.
Just to add to that, the Three Waters management risk is being deep dived this time, Audit and Risk Committee. So that will again be delivered to council in the excluded forum in December.
Just going to add around the affordability, it's much wider than the Three Waters. So take, for example, QP's area, the cost of infrastructure, and weighing up all those activities council do alongside, of course, our community also getting bills from the new CCO. So you're right, Curtis, some of that sort of goes with the CCO, but there is quite a lot of that affordability risk that will still be retained here at this table.
Will we be exposed then as Central Otago Council under this in terms of risk? Will we be exposed into the other councils' risk as well?
Probably will.
Well, just
Because of that financial risk.
yeah, just are we
Not exposed per se to the other council's risk. So with the CCO, how this council will oversee it is through statement of expectations, and you'll set expectations as will the other three councils. You'll work together, and so you will be able to set expectations around what you expect from the CCO, but in essence it's going to be an independent entity that will deliver, so we won't be exposed to Clutha's risk per se in that way. Does that make sense?
Well, I just wonder because it's still really council owned, and I just wondered how much of that liability all on us if everything goes pear-shaped at the other end?
Well, if, for example, Auckland Council have, they have actually taken back some CCOs and with under Mayor. So it's always going to have oversight by this council. So you're absolutely right. There is a risk element, and it's something that this council I would implore, and as you will, to you know, have really good effective oversight of that CCO as the governance rules allow.
Yeah, and I think the LGFA who will be loaning to the water services entity. Councils that make up the CCO will be underwriting those loans.
Yes.
Just as we underwrite, you know, the loans now. So that liability. Yeah. The other thing too is remembering that initially, and there's no time limit on this, prices are not harmonised. So the cost of Clutha, if they had an issue, and something materialised, that will fall on Clutha. Costs of Gore will fall on Gore. That's the way it's been set up now. In the future, it may harmonise, but that's probably going to be a decision for the shareholding councils to make.
Question. Questions? Thanks, Amelia. Great work as per always. Thank you. Okay. That's pretty much spot on time, is it? A little bit behind, oh gosh. Okay, so we'll leave that one. Oh, sorry, my apologies. I'll move that be, and Cheryl will second that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Okay, I think I started thinking about lunch, didn't I? Okay, so that's 12:25. Yep. So we'll lunch. I'm just bearing in mind that we've still got that one paper sitting there waiting for the worship to come back. 30 minutes, or do you want to come back? So it's 12:32. If we're back by 1 o'clock. All right.
I'll be back by 1 o'clock, Tracy.
Thank you, Tamer. I'll move my chair.
She's got that, can she? Yeah, what she means is shift your name tag, Tracy.
Yeah, I'm shifting my name tag.
I don't expect to come in here and have to do my